Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Diane Chronic, your host here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite PvP hunter builds, which I just call the Wormhusk Hunter build. Not really that creative of a name, but is a very effective PvP build, definitely my favorite. For the most part, a lot of this is going to be very similar to the Antaeus Titan build, with the obvious difference that it's a hunter. We're not using the Titan exotics, but pretty much all of the weapons and a lot of the armor mods, not all of them, will be pretty much the same. And if you haven't seen this video, we will be going over all of those things again. Don't worry about that. Throughout this video, you'll be seeing pictures of a build document that I created for you to use if you want it. All you have to do is head over to my Discord server, which is linked in the description down below. And in the Discord server, there's a channel called #SpreadsheetsDocs. And around the date that this video came out on, which should be June 4th, you'll find a link to this doc, as well as all of my spreadsheets and other docs that I've made, as well as a playlist on my channel on YouTube if you wanted to take a look at all of the different builds that I've created. And of course, big shout out to my buddy Zoomzy, who helped me create this build doc, as well as get me the PvP gameplay that you're seeing on screen right now. A link to his Twitch will be found in the description down below. Moving on, let's get into the main content of the video. I'm going to be taking a deep dive into the numbers and the specs. For the class and subclass, I use a Hunter Void Way of the Wraith, and with that, I use Void Wall Grenade, Marksman's Dodge, and High Jump. We'll be talking about all of that in a little bit. For the guns, pretty much the same recommendations as the Titan build that I made before with Antaeus Wards. However, I have removed the auto rifles from the list, as my Hunter is a bit more airborne. Auto rifles do fall off, and of course, Hardlight has been nerfed since then. Even though it's not removed from the meta, it's still good. It's not the same as it was before. My go-to setup, same as before, is going to be Spare Rations, Beloved, and Wardcliff Coil, with the obvious alternative, either Mindbenders or, nowadays, Fellwinter's Lie in your energy slot. Outside of that, there's a bunch of other recommendations, including Revoker or Imperial Decree as your kinetic, and of course Waking Vigil and Sunshot as your energy, and of course alternatives to Wardcliff Coil, Hammerhead, Play of the Game, and all that whatnot. And of course, if you're wondering what mods and perks you should have on all of these legendary guns, go ahead and check out my PvP gun spreadsheets, which I'll have linked on the document. Moving on to the armor, pretty much the same as the aforementioned Titan build with some minor differences. The biggest difference being that mobility is going to be a lot more important than it was on the Titan build. Even though I have a tier 10 mobility on my Titan with the Hunters, it is especially important because the mobility affects the cooldown of your dodge, which is important for Hunters, and with Wormhusk Crown is doubly important. Trying to get down to that 7-second dodge recharge is very important. Outside of that, things are pretty straightforward. Make sure you have enough arc pieces so you can have enough powerful friends to get enough mobility, which shouldn't really be a problem with Hunters. A lot of armor are mobility focused. And of course, having void options so you can have hand cannon and sniper options for those particular mods. Everything else is pretty much straightforward and the same as the Titan build. Moving on, let's talk about the gameplay, because having the tools for success is not always the most important thing. You also have to know how to use them. This is a defensive hunter build based on using the Wormhusk Crown exotic for survival and aggressive re-engagement. The obvious use case for Wormhusk is to dodge behind cover to regain health and shields, and to survive incoming shots, explosions, and damage. This will allow you to escape more consistently and re-engage and surprise your opponents with your higher amount of health. Even though this is a simple mechanic, it can be the difference maker to your KD and your team's score, because more often than not dying is more important than getting kills, something that my team consistently doesn't realize. As a general note about Hunters, you should try to engage people at close range from the air. The main reason this is because Hunters very quickly raise their weapons up as they're doing their mid-air jumps, whereas Titans and Warlocks can only raise their weapons after they stop doing their mid-air jumps and lifts. And when engaging enemies from the air, this forces enemies to need to target you up high. And even if you die, your enemies will then have to reacquire your teammates at ground level. This will cause a disruption in their defensive line and more easily allow your teammates to get the first shot and wipe them out. This is something that a lot of people miss, is that if you have to look straight up in the air at a hunter and your teammates are instead straight at the ground in front of you, getting back to them may seem like a short amount of time, but it's a lot longer than if your enemy was just right in front of you. And that's the importance of Hunters. So when Shaq say that Hunters blaze a path for the rest of us, this is what he means. So Hunters run in, flank, cause a disruption in their lines, have enemies looking in a bunch of different directions, and have your team more easily be able to kill them. Moving on, for your weapon, Spare Rations. If you're using Spare Rations or any 150 RPM hand cannon, can 3-shot headshot and nearly 4-shot body shot most enemies. And in engagements, you should only engage if you're getting 50 plus damage headshots. Otherwise, you should use your sniper or reapproach from a different angle. And for pretty much all of the maps in the game, there's almost always an option to reapproach from a different direction. You should never be forced to have to fight a spare rations against scout rifles at scout rifle range. Now, as a personal note, I find 150 RPM hand cannons to fire a bit fast at times and would often recommend you slow down your shots in favor of accuracy where needed. Because if you fire 3 shots at an enemy that is not looking at you and you miss all 3 shots and he kills you, you're gonna feel so bad. Trust me, I know. However, in general, you should approach most engagements with confidence, as 150 RPM hand cannons have a very good time to kill for their range. For your subclass, your Void Wall Grenade and Smoke Bomb should be used for zoning and retreating. Specifically, your Void Wall Grenade also auto-locks in the direction of the nearest enemy, unlike the Titan version, #sadface, and your Smoke Bomb is also the strongest version of all the Smoke Bombs, which also does almost half of a Guardian's health bar. So both of these are very good options for zoning and getting enemies behind cover. Flawless Execution is also a potentially game-changing perk that's part of your subclass that makes you invisible and to see enemies through walls. So try to crouch when killing people where possible so you can get this perk. Your Spectral Blade Super is one of the strongest parts of your build. You have decent resistance, periodic invisibility, easy auto-locking attacks, and very fast movements. The 2 main strategies for this super is approaching while invisible or spam light attacks to close the distance very fast. And as an interesting little quirk about it, while making the killing blow with your light attack, you can also animation cancel that light attack into a heavy attack to go invisible again. And this particular combo can also be used to kill any super in the game if both parts hit pretty much instantaneously. Your super's heavy attack also has a very high vertical and can be used to very easily kill mid-air opponents. And lastly, let's talk about the alternatives to this build. Firstly, you can use either a sniper or a shotgun depending on the engagement range of the map. I have an alternative set of legs for shotgun and sniper so that I can handle specific maps in different ways. As I mentioned before, your primary ammo weapon can be changed to a different hand cannon like Thorn or Waking Vigil, or to an auto rifle like Hardlight and Service Regime. However, auto rifles have fallen a little bit in the meta, they're still good to use. Just make sure you make the appropriate changes to your armor mods. However, generally auto rifles don't really need that much mod attention from flinching, loading, and targeting. It's good to have either way. Your subclass can be changed to Way of the Current for a very strong and defensive super. The obvious use case here is while in the super you can defend and reflect projectiles to the enemy. Very similarly to my Code of the Aggressor to Sentinel Shields, I can block damage, which is very nice. For your subclass, your Tempest Strike melee ability has a very high vertical and auto-locking attack, and personally I recommend using Arc Bolt. Probably the stronger part of this subclass. Arc Bolt is very easy to hit, very consistent damage, and kill finishes. And that is pretty much it. That is the end of the build. Let me know in the comments down below if I missed something or made a mistake about something. There's almost always something that I miss. Please let me know, just don't be abrasive. And of course, if you have your own recommendation for a build, let me know in the comments down below. I'm making a lot of builds over time. I'd love to make some interesting ones, some funky ones, or some slight modifications. If there are better versions of stuff, let me know. But anyways, that's gonna be the end of it. I hope you guys did enjoy. My name's been Chronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.